In Hollywood, every love story begins with light, but some lights burn too long, too bright, until all that's left behind is ash. Farrah Fawcett and Ryan O'Neal, two stars of a golden era, once made America believe that love could survive fame, fortune, and the glare of the spotlight. They were beautiful, radiant, seemingly untouchable. Yet that same light became the fire that consumed them both. Behind the smiles on red carpets hid storms of jealousy, control, and a loneliness no one could reach. The same love that made them legends became a prison neither could escape. Some say Ryan loved Farrah so fiercely he couldn't let her go, even when she no longer belonged to him. Others whisper he simply couldn't stand to see her shine without him by her side. Between light and shadow, passion and destruction, they wrote one of Hollywood's most haunting love stories, where love, once it loses control, stops being devotion and becomes a curse. Stay until the end to understand why, among millions who adored her, only one man could never let go. And if you believe some truths can only be told in whispers, hit subscribe, because this is one of them. Farrah Lenny Fawcett was born on February 2, 1947, in Corpus Christi, a sun-drenched coastal town in Texas where wind and waves seemed to dance together. It was there that a little girl with golden hair grew up surrounded by the sea and sunlight, a light that would follow her throughout her life, bringing both glory and curse. By the late 1970s, Farrah Fawcett had become an irreplaceable American icon. With her radiant California smile, flawless figure, and that famous red swimsuit poster, which sold over 12 million copies, she became the ultimate sex symbol of a generation. She was America's angel, the woman who could make all of Hollywood stop whenever she stepped into the frame. But behind that blinding light, there was always a shadow, and within it, a man who both loved and destroyed her, Ryan O'Neal. Many say their story didn't begin with a kiss, but with a crack, the one in Farrah's marriage to Lee Majors, Ryan's best friend. Some whisper that Ryan fell in love with her the very first time he saw her, and from that moment, nothing could stop the fire igniting between the three stars. Perhaps their love was destined to burn, bright, brief, and dangerously beautiful. What do you think about this? And let us know in the comments. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on the stories hidden behind the brightest lights of Hollywood. Lee Majors, the star of the $6 Million Man, was the face America worshipped. As the very symbol of strength and masculinity, he was the kind of man every woman dreamed of, and Farrah, the small-town girl from Texas, was the one who held his heart. They married in 1973, becoming one of Hollywood's golden couples. Beautiful, successful, and seemingly perfect. Photos of them on red carpets were drenched in flashbulbs, and the press called them the perfect American couple. Then one day, Lee introduced Farrah to his close friend, Ryan O'Neal, the actor who had once made the whole world weep in Love Story. They met at a small gathering filled with laughter, champagne, and soft golden light. From cheerful dinners among friends, their connection began to shift. A pause too long, a glance that lingered, conversations that stretched past midnight. Some say Lee started to feel uneasy when Ryan began calling Farrah every night, claiming to check in about work. But by the time he realized what was happening, Farrah's heart was already gone. A crew member later recalled, there was something between them that everyone could see, except Lee. And perhaps in Hollywood, nothing is more dangerous than a love born in the light and raised in the shadows of betrayal. After her divorce from Lee Majors, Farrah stepped out of the shadows of her old life and appeared publicly with Ryan O'Neal, and Hollywood exploded. The two most beautiful, most famous people of their time were now side by side. On red carpets, they smiled radiantly, holding hands as if they were born to shine together. Magazines everywhere hailed them as the golden couple, the new symbol of American love. In Malibu, they were often seen walking along the beach, Farrah in a flowing white shirt, Ryan in a simple gray suit, the picture of a couple who seemed to have it all: fame, love, and the admiration of the world. They appeared at every major party, on every magazine cover, becoming the kind of love story everyone envied. But those who knew them closely understood that the light they shared didn't just warm, it burned. A writer for People magazine once said, "Ryan loved her so much, he didn't want any other light to touch her," a stylist recalled. He would sometimes show up on set without warning, just to see who she was talking to. Under the camera's gaze, they were the perfect lovers. But when the lights went out, jealousy quietly began to consume their love. As if Ryan didn't just want to love Farrah, he wanted to own her light. In 1985, Farrah Fawcett gave birth to her son, Redmond O'Neill, the only child she shared with Ryan. The image of Farrah holding her baby under the Malibu sun, her face glowing with joy, made America believe she had finally found true happiness. Around the same time, her career took a completely new turn. Farrah accepted a role in The Burning Bed, a television film based on the true story of a woman who endured years of domestic abuse before finally rebelling and setting fire to the bed where she had suffered. When it aired in 1984, the film shocked the nation. For the first time, people no longer saw the blonde sex symbol. They saw a woman unafraid to strip away her image and confront pain head-on. The role earned her an Emmy nomination and transformed Farrah Fawcett from a beauty icon into a serious actress. A crew member later recalled, she would tremble after every take. No one could tell whether she was acting or remembering something from her own life. Many believed that in portraying a woman trapped in fear, Farrah was reliving the darkness within her own relationship. After The Burning Bed, she continued to seek out roles scarred by pain. In Extremities and Poor Little Rich Girl, the Barbara Hutton story, as if Farrah could only find her truth through characters who had been broken. After the stunning success of The Burning Bed, Farrah Fawcett was no longer the blonde angel Hollywood once labeled her as. She had become living proof of the power of a woman brave enough to break her own image and rise beyond the mold that once defined her. Critics praised her, audiences adored her, and studios once again began calling her name. But when the spotlight found her, it also cast a long shadow, where Ryan O'Neal was slowly fading. His career had begun to decline. Leading roles disappeared. On screen, he was no longer the romantic hero of Love Story, but a man haunted by his own past. In real life, he turned to alcohol in bursts of anger. The imbalance between them, one soaring higher, the other falling deeper, transformed their once beautiful love into a silent battlefield. A close friend once recalled hearing Ryan mutter drunkenly, "If she becomes more famous than me again, I'll lose her forever." The words sounded like a premonition and a threat. From then on, their seaside home in Bel Air, once filled with laughter, grew quiet. Not because of the wind, but because of the distance. Those who knew them said Farrah would still smile whenever he walked into the room. But in her eyes, the fire that once burned so brightly had turned to embers. By the 1990s, Hollywood's golden couple had quietly disappeared from magazine covers. No more hand-holding before flashing cameras, no more glittering parties among movie stars. Farrah Fawcett chose a quieter life, turning to painting and sculpture, art without scripts or spotlights, where only truth remained. Meanwhile, Ryan O'Neal sank deeper into addiction and unpredictable fits of rage. The press began calling him a man who could no longer control himself. When asked about Ryan, Farrah would simply smile and say, Sometimes love needs silence to survive. A soft, almost weightless answer, yet it carried a notion of sadness. One of Farrah's close friends once whispered, she wasn't afraid of being hit, she was afraid of being controlled. Every time Ryan disappeared for a few days, she could finally breathe. The house would feel warm again, not because someone arrived, but because peace had returned. Then he would come back, bringing the same old smile, the same apologies, and the same darkness she could never quite escape. In Farrah's eyes, the love was still there, but it was no longer light. It had become a mirror reflecting her own loneliness. In 1995, when many of her peers had already stepped out of the spotlight, Farrah Fawcett returned to it, in a way no one expected. At 50, she agreed to pose for Playboy, a daring yet deeply artistic photo shoot. There was nothing cheap or provocative about it, only soft light falling across her skin, her curves, and the quiet strength of a woman who had endured and survived. The issue sold over 4 million copies, making her one of the rare stars ever to grace the magazine's cover alone. In an interview, Farrah said, "I wanted to prove that beauty has no age, and that women don't need permission to be free." That same year, she released an art video titled All of Me, in which she used her own body as a brush, painting on canvas with spontaneous strokes, color, and emotion. It wasn't just a piece of art, it was a journey back to herself. Many said All of Me was more than a feminist statement. It was a message to Ryan O'Neal. You don't own me. I belong to myself. At 50, Farrah was no longer Hollywood's blonde angel, but a woman who had burned through everything, standing bare before a world that once loved her only for her looks, to declare that freedom, in the end, is the last and truest form of beauty. In 1997, Farrah Fawcett appeared on The David Letterman Show. Millions of viewers tuned in, eager to see America's angel once more, the woman who had once captivated the world with her radiant beauty and unshakable confidence. But when she walked onto the stage, something was different. Her laughter felt offbeat, her speech slow and scattered, her eyes glittering, yet somehow empty. Letterman tried to guide the conversation. The audience chuckled awkwardly, and the media exploded overnight. The next morning, every newspaper carried the same headline: Farrah Fawcett, the fallen angel. The moment spread like a wound, instantly turning her image into a subject of ridicule. Some said she was drunk, others claimed she was sedated, but those who knew her whispered that Farrah was living in another world, one where only she, Ryan, and years of quiet loneliness existed. An old friend recalled, she wasn't drunk. She was just tired of playing the role of an angel for too long. No one knew the full truth, only that the light in her eyes, the one that once made the world stop, had begun to fade, like a candle burning itself out in the wind. After the controversy on The David Letterman Show, Farrah Fawcett all but vanished from Hollywood. She withdrew from public life. No more red carpets, no more interviews, no more glossy magazine covers. In her quiet Bel Air home, Farrah sought herself again through painting and sculpture. Twisted, emotional forms that seemed to mirror how she was piecing herself back together after being broken so many times. The art world began to speak of her not as a movie star, but as a true artist, a woman who turned pain into beauty. Yet, beyond the canvas, her life remained entangled with one name: Ryan O'Neal, the man who drifted in and out of her world like the ghost of their past. When tender, he would return with flowers and apologies. When cold, he would vanish for months, leaving Farrah surrounded by her art, but starved of human warmth. An acquaintance once murmured, "He still keeps her pictures on every wall," as if by looking at them, he could make her come back. No matter how hard Farrah tried to escape Ryan's orbit, every path seemed to circle back to the same place, A love that wasn't alive anymore, yet refused to die. And on those nights when she painted, people said the light from her studio window glowed softly, golden, trembling, like a soul still struggling to find its way out of the dark. In 2006, Farrah Fawcett was diagnosed with anal cancer, a rare, brutal, and silent disease. Hollywood was stunned. Everyone assumed she would hide away, retreating from the public eye as so many stars had before. But Farrah chose the opposite. She opened the door wide and let the world witness every step of her battle. She allowed cameras to follow her through it all: the chemotherapy, the pain, the moments when she managed a faint smile at the hospital staff. The project became Farrah's story, a documentary so raw and honest that it moved millions to tears when it aired in 2009. There were no stage lights, no perfect makeup, only the woman who had once been a beauty icon. Now bald, fragile, but still shining with fierce spirit, Farrah had turned fear into art and pain into legacy. Yet, someone from the production later revealed that Ryan O'Neal had secretly edited parts of the film, removing scenes where Farrah appeared weak, trembling, or in tears. He wanted her to remain an angel, they said, even though all she wanted was to be human. Some believed he did it out of love. Others whispered he simply couldn't bear to see her so vulnerable. The woman he had once tried to keep forever was now slipping away in a way no one could stop. In her final months, Farrah Fawcett lay in a stark white room at St. John's Hospital, the dim light glinting softly against her skin, now thin and translucent as glass. The cancer had spread, slowly stealing the breath of the woman who had once made the whole world look up in awe. Yet, in her final hours, her only wish was to see Greg Lott, her college sweetheart from Texas, the man who had loved her long before fame, before Hollywood turned her into an icon. When Greg heard she was dying, he drove through the night to the hospital, carrying a small bouquet of wildflowers and an old letter she had once written to him. But when he arrived, he was stopped at the door. No one would let him in. A nurse later recalled, "Ryan said she doesn't need her past, but we knew what she needed was to say goodbye." Greg waited in the hallway for hours, listening to the faint rhythm of her heart monitor slow down. And as the sun rose on June 25, 2009, Farrah slipped away quietly. The very same day Michael Jackson died, the world mourned the king of pop, while the golden-haired angel, the woman who once made America believe in beauty and light, flew away in silence, carrying with her a promise left unspoken and a gaze that never got to close. In her final wishes, Farrah Fawcett wrote clearly. She wanted to be cremated and have her ashes scattered at sea, where sunlight sparkles and the salty wind carries the memories of her Texas childhood. But that never happened. Ryan O'Neal decided instead to bury her at Westwood Memorial Park, the resting place of Hollywood legends. "She belongs where the light once loved her most," he said. Years later, when Ryan passed away, he was buried right beside her, as if the two were destined never to part. In her will, Farrah left everything to her son and her family, not a single dollar to Ryan. Only $100,000 went to Greg Lott, her college sweetheart, the man who stood outside her hospital room the night she died. After her death, Ryan kept the Andy Warhol portrait of Farrah, the one she had donated to the University of Texas. When the university sued, claiming she gifted it to us, Ryan replied, "No, she gave it to me, so I could keep her face forever." No one knows which story is true. What is certain is that even in death, Farrah never truly left him. Perhaps what bound them was never pure love, but something more hauntingly beautiful. A tie woven from both tenderness and possession, lasting even beyond this world. They say angels never die. They simply fly to a place where no one can hurt them anymore. Maybe Farrah Fawcett has finally found that place, where there are no cameras, no lights, no hands trying to hold her back. Only the sea, the sun, and the wind. The three forces that raised a Texas girl, turned her into an American icon, and at last, carried her home to peace. If you love true stories, where Hollywood's light meets its shadows, where every smile hides a secret and every legend carries a scar, stay with us. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next Fact and Whisper. Stories told not just with words, but with the heartbeat of the stars who once made the world fall in love. Because sometimes, only when the lights go out, do we finally hear the real voice of Hollywood.